Quick take to kick off your week, and it is a domestic issue. It's Minneapolis. It's what everyone is talking about. Such disturbing videos, photos coming out with the killing of a civilian demonstrator in Minneapolis, Alex Pretti. It does feel like a tipping point to me. There's been a lot of protests, some of which have had violence. He, in particular, was killed by an immigration and customs enforcement official with a significant number around him, some 10 shots, it looks like, or more. Lots and lots of videos. Everyone saw it. Everyone involved is pretty much taking pictures of everything, videos of everything. And, as with the murder of Charlie Kirk, as with any political violence in the United States these days, before anything known, before any evidence comes out, immediately it's political sides. Everybody makes their points. And in this point, it was the Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, as well as the head of ICE, and others, Stephen Miller, J.D. Vance, all either saying or cross-posting that Alex is a domestic terrorist, that he was there to kill as many federal officers as possible. And that, of course, would be, if true, that would be a great outrage, and his killing would be fully justified. And indeed, you'd want to see much more federal support for ICE on the ground in Minneapolis. But of course, it's not true. One point before we get into that, which is, should Alex have brought a gun to a rally? I got to tell you, for me, I certainly wouldn't do it. It seems like a dumb move, especially since we've seen lots and lots of cases of ICE agents who are pretty badly trained compared to the National Guard, compared to the FBI, compared to police forces, and at least some cases where they look to be both incompetent and more trigger happy than one would expect in this environment, and they're not trained to deal with large-scale protests. But it is legal, fully legal, to bring a weapon, a gun, in Minneapolis. In some states, it's not during a protest, but in Minnesota, it is. And also, critically, the video makes very clear that Alex didn't take his gun out, that as he's surrounded after he's pepper sprayed, trying to help this woman, and as he's wrestled to the ground, he was then disarmed. And then after he was disarmed, he's killed. And there's no question that is beyond unacceptable. And yet we don't see any backtracking, particularly from the Trump administration officials. Nobody is going to apologize for the disinformation or the lies that were put out. And that's what's so dangerous. I saw that, President Obama, President Clinton put out statements saying that this is utterly unacceptable and a threat to the republic. But I didn't see President Bush Jr., who is no supporter of the Trump administration, adding his name to that at all. I've seen virtually no Republicans willing to come out and support what their eyes are obviously showing them, because the politics apparently matter more than the safety, the well-being, and the upholding of rule of law for Americans, which is incredibly dangerous and not sustainable for maintaining a representative democracy. I guess no one expects the administration to apologize, because that's not what they do. The intention is to frame everything as a win and never back down. But in this instance, it does indeed look like they are backing down. President Trump himself saying he wants to look into this, saying that ICE those agents not planning to stay for very long in Minnesota. There's been a lot of CEOs, some 60 CEOs of major businesses based in Minnesota that are working, that have put out a statement, not directly taking on Trump. It's meant to be a nonpartisan statement, but calling for calm and de-escalation because of just how dangerous this is, not just for the business environment, but for the community, for the country. And it does feel, I mean, if this was an area that the Trump administration had been looking to escalate, and Stephen Miller in particular, the Deputy White House Chief of Staff, because he felt that this was an opportunity to take more control through eventually the Insurrection Act, which Trump has been hinting at increasingly over the past weeks. He's not doing that today. And he's not doing that today because it's extremely unpopular. It's unpopular among Democrats, and it's increasingly unpopular among independents and Republicans too. And that, unlike the border, right, securing the border and ensuring that illegal immigrants are not able to come into the United States, that was one of Trump's most popular issues. It was one of Kamala Harris's weakest. The Biden administration was seen as doing very little in securing the border, and Trump turned that around, and that has worked well for him with the Mexican government and with communities all across the United States. Opposition for sanctuary cities, also generally popular. Use of ICE, and especially in these two instances we've seen, Renee Good and Alex Pretti, not illegal immigrants, but American citizens, and then lying and obscuring what happened afterwards. That is extremely unpopular. And I think that it's important for all of the people that assume that the U.S. Democracy is not only in danger, but it's going to somehow fail, that so much of what President Trump and his administration have tried to do in terms of political revolution, which we called our top risk for 2026, and we certainly stand with that, especially over the course of the last few days, we've seen all these events. But attempting a political revolution is not the same as succeeding at one. So many of the things that President Trump has attempted that are breaking norms, that are breaking laws, do not necessarily hold up weeks and months later, whether it's the investigations we've seen against Letitia James and James Comey, where they've ended up being struck down by the courts and that's it, they're done, or the effort to fire the Fed chief, Jerome Powell, and had to back away from that because of the markets, and Scott Bessent and others. So too, the using of ICE in Minneapolis, I suspect in a few weeks, is one where Trump tried to escalate and eventually had to back down. Doesn't mean these things aren't important, because the willingness to use instruments of power in unprecedented ways to try to break the checks and balances on executive authority, to put the presidency above rule of law, that is indeed an extremely dangerous thing to do. And if it's successful, it could lead to the breaking of democracy in the U.S. But while all of these efforts make great headlines, and while the president never says he fails or backs down on anything, the reality is that we have to focus on not just the initial headlines, but also when and if they fail and go away. And that's been true for a lot of these. And ultimately that reality, the fact that there's still a lot of resilience and pushback in the U.S. political system, I think should give people a lot more cause for hope than they'd get if they're just reading the headlines. So that's what I see in what's been a very disturbing few days and very politically divisive. And I don't think this is going to get any easier anytime soon. But hopefully we'll be able to still cover it in a fair and authentic and honest way. That's it for me, and I'll talk to y'all real soon.